Today we have a crazy relationship story of someone asking for inappropriate photos and then accessing the person's email to try to find some anyways. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I, 29-year-old male, broke up with my ex, 30-year-old female, and I'm regretting it. A lot of regret. It's been around a year since I, 29-year-old male, ended a 5-year relationship with my ex-girlfriend, 30-year-old female. Reflecting back, we did share a good relationship, but at that time, I needed more from her while she seemed hesitant to move forward. Now, a year later, I've come to realize what I lost. She was the kindest person I knew. She had a shoebox of medical supplies in her car boot in case she ever came across an injured animal. She was brave. One time we were on a date and she got involved when a man was pestering a girl. She ended up bringing the girl over to our table. I didn't even notice there was a problem and honestly thought my girlfriend was being dramatic until I heard the other girl's side. But she was always so observant with other people's feelings. She was generous, always turning up to visit when something that reminded her of me. I could sit here for hours writing about her, yet when she was mine, all I was fixated on was her shortcomings, which in hindsight weren't bad at all. Our relationship ending due to conflict over her job. She had a care job that she loved but paid low. My father's company offered her a much higher paying job that required no qualifications, and I couldn't understand why she wouldn't take it. At the time, this infuriated me. How could you not want an opportunity like this? I didn't stop. My dad and sister even got involved at a family dinner, and my sister took it too far and said her job was one of the lowest paid jobs someone could have, and she should aspire for more, like I do. Even bringing up her ex who said was broke and ending it with him made her life so much better. My parents agreed and the tension was crazy. My girlfriend was distraught, yet I felt happy, justified that my family agreed with me and maybe she would finally see sense. This argument happened 2 days before my friend's stag. Not making excuses, but I was so angry with her. I wanted us to buy a big house and in my head, her saying no to the job meant we couldn't do that. I made a regrettable decision during that holiday. I slept with a girl I met on a night out. She discovered this a month later and I chose that moment to end things. I handled it poorly, acting distant and cold, believing it would be better to cut it off quickly than to drag it out. She made a few drunken calls a couple of months later, but I ignored them, again thinking it was better to cut ties rather than giving false hope. In retrospect, I find myself feeling like a stereotypical villain in a movie. I am not innocent in this matter. Yes, I was influenced by my family's opinions about ambition and compatibility, but I willingly agreed. Now with a clearer perspective, I see my sister's supposedly glamorous life, built on wealth, isn't necessarily fulfilling. She seems miserable, just rich. My ex was ambitious, just not to be a millionaire. She wanted a family. She used to say she wants a house just so she could host family at Christmas. My family wants a bigger house just to impress people. How was I so blind? I'm now dating a girl who's on around 70,000. My family would love her, and now I'm taking this as a bad sign. She would probably be sick if she came across an injured animal. She would probably be annoyed by a girl coming over to our table on a date. She hasn't offered to pay for one thing on a date, yet my ex, on so much less than her, would always offer. She was just born into a rich family, and somehow this is all it takes for her to be an upgrade. I wonder now if this experience is a lesson I needed to learn. Am I going to end up miserable in a big house with a wife that has aspirations similar to my sister, while my ex is probably going to find someone who didn't need to learn this lesson? I'm not seeking sympathy. I'm simply venting my thoughts. I know I'm the bad person in this. Is it too late to fix things? We broke up in November. The thing is, I know she's so kind. She would always talk to me if I tried. I don't want to take advantage of that. Getting back with me would mean dealing with my family. I'd also be embarrassed as I've spent the year pretending I'm so much better off. This is such a conflicting post because there's a lot of me that feels bad for OP and I definitely feel for them. But at the same time, they did treat them bad. They cheated on her. And then after all that, they're like, well, maybe I can come crawling back a year later. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, OP seemed to me like hardly taking very much accountability for what they even did. They literally said, yes, I was influenced by my family's opinions, but I'm also not innocent, as if like we might have had a hard time identifying that. Honestly, it might just be more fair to let her live her life. and not saddle her with the baggage OP brings, as much as it may hurt. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is my 24-year-old female husband, 26-year-old male, thinks I'm cheating. How do I reconnect after this argument? I went to my friend's house and I stayed there for a couple of hours. I'm pregnant, so he was talking about baby things to me and gave me some old baby things that his sister used when her son was little. We chatted for a bit and then my husband called me saying he knows where I am and he and his brother are outside. I was shocked, so I told him he knew I was meeting him and he said I should have told him it was at his house. I was in shock for a bit until my friend went outside to check if they were there. No, don't want to go out because I felt like my trust was betrayed. Then I heard my husband and his brother shouting at my friend. Then I went out and told him nothing happened and he should calm down, and he saw the bag full of baby things and asked why I had baby things, and I said my friend gave them to me. He then said that the baby wasn't his and he wants a paternity test. I told him he was out of order and he shouldn't demand that. He said I clearly have something to hide and I shouldn't be at another man's house for 2 hours, and why would he give me baby things? I feel this is a misunderstanding. I'm 7 months pregnant and I don't want to deal with all of this now. How do I get him to calm down and accept I'm not cheating on him? So let me get this straight. Is the brother-in-law kind of stalking OP? Is this brand new behavior for him, or has he been crappy like this before? To be honest, I've heard of a lot of relationships ending in a situation like this where they hand them the paternity test that says they are the father and they walk away. Maybe you could try considering couples therapy. If they don't want to do that, what else can you do with somebody that is so decisive on not trusting you and thinking that you're so disloyal to them? Our next story is, I dumped my boyfriend after he threw away the urn of my leopard gecko, but now friends are saying I overreacted. I, 23-year-old female, was dating my boyfriend, 25-year-old male, for 6 months when a week ago he came over to help me out when I was really sick. I honestly could not leave my room because it was so bad. In my living room, I have a shelf that has old items from pets I owned in the past, such as collars and bowls, but one item on it is an urn that holds the remains of my leopard gecko. Her name was Trick, and I got her as a juvenile when I was 10 from a pet store. Shortly after, my parents and I realized something was wrong with her front leg, so we took her to the vet, who told us it was underdeveloped and as she gets older, it'll get worse and start twisting. Also, no, it was not MBD, metabolic bone disease. Her other legs were fine, it was just that when she was born, for whatever reason, her leg didn't form correctly up to her shoulder. We also found out that she had some digestion issues, but in my household, we keep pets even if they have challenges, or need medicines or care, so we adapted. With the suggestion of the vet, we didn't use substrate because she might get stuck and suffocate, so instead we used a mat that only juveniles usually use, and took her back often for checkups in regards to her diet and nutrients to make sure she could live the best life she could. Unfortunately, due to her issues, she didn't live the average lifespan a normal, healthy leopard gecko could live, which is between 15 and 20 years. She passed away at the age of 10, a couple months after my 20th birthday. I was devastated, and we ended up burying her in the backyard of my parents' house, where I lived until I was moving out at 22. I felt so sad about leaving Trick behind, especially because my parents expressed wanting to move away in a few years. So my mom and dad suggested we dig up her bones and put it in a little urn my mom bought for me, which is what we did before I moved to my current house. From then on, she sat on that shelf until I found her urn was missing the day after I started to feel better. I frantically called my boyfriend asking if he moved her urn, but he just said, I threw it away. Keeping the bones of a dead animal for so long is really stupid. I almost screamed at him, but instead I hung up and dug through the garbage before finding Trick's urn. I made sure to clean it very well, and I ignored his calls for most of the day until I finally answered at night. I kept asking him why he would do this, or how he could throw away something so precious to me. He finally blurted out that it's not like it was a real pet like all the other ones. He was referring to the paw prints and ashes from previous cats and dogs my family owned. He even mentioned, it was just a stupid lizard, which made me immediately say I'm breaking up with you when I hung up. My parents agree that it was right to kick him to the curb, but since then our mutual friends are split, with some agreeing that it was a monstrous thing for him to do, and others telling me I overreacted. And how could I prioritize something dead over my boyfriend? Since then, I've been getting calls and texts from my ex-boyfriend switching between apologizing, calling me names, and saying I'm psycho. I just don't get how he thought I would be fine with this decision. He knew months before we were dating that I had her earn, and how precious that shelf of items was to me. I even would have understood if he didn't want to date me originally because he thought I was weird, because I know a lot of people don't really save things like this for reptiles, rodents, or fish. I'm so frustrated, and I feel like I want to cut off those friends who are sticking up for him, as well as my ex, and move on. Yet I'm still hurt. What if he didn't tell me right away, or it was a trash pickup day and I lost her forever? Should I just cut everyone off who thinks he was in the right? How do I prevent people from doing this in the future? So, nobody that cares about you should have done remotely anything near that. Personally, I think it takes a huge disconnect from a person emotionally to be able to understand that they kept such a thing and be willing to grab it and throw it in the trash. Personally, and I'm no expert, but I would say run and never talk to this guy again. That's unbelievable that OP's running into friends or people they know that legitimately think what he did was okay and that OP should get over it because they're not prioritizing their relationship enough. Our next story is, my partner, 26-year-old male, and I, 22-year-old female, have not hooked up for 2 years now, and it's getting to a point where I'm ready to end the relationship, even though it is the most supporting and uplifting thing in my life right now. We've been together for like 2.5 years. Yes, we only hooked up for like half a year. He's my first long relationship, and intimately my first too. If I were to speak about our relationship without the hooking up problem, I would say we're soulmates. I love him with all of my heart and would do anything to keep him happy. This is also the reason I stayed for so long. We connect on such a deep level. But there's been one betrayal that hurt me so much that it left me with trust issues. It all started when he had knee problems during hooking up. He went to the doctor and got it fixed. Fine. I tried to initiate. Nope. He had a problem with the skin down there. He got it removed. Fine. I looked after him and took care of him, let him recover. Still nothing. After like a year and a bit without it, I got suspicious. He wouldn't want to even talk or think of sexual stuff. He would always change the topic. I started noticing that he would get up really early for work at like 3 a.m. and fall asleep at like 7 p.m. One night I quietly got up and burst into the living room. There I saw him helping himself. We talked and he firstly denied it, then gave in and said he's been trying but it hasn't worked out. Well, we left it at that. But after a few weeks I got nervous again. He fell asleep on the couch at like 7 p.m. again, so I looked at his phone. I found nothing that could show him cheating, but when I searched for adult entertainment in his history, there have been searches all the way back to before the knee operation. I also saw on his Twitter that he liked and replied to women without clothes all this time. So his drive wasn't gone, just for me? So I gave him an ultimatum. Either you keep doing that to yourself, or you try to get your drive back. He said he'll try his best. He took a testosterone test, went to the gym. He stopped watching adult entertainment, but then he stopped going to the gym and nothing has changed in the last 5 months. I'm frustrated. After I read the title, I was preparing to have a story where maybe he just has a lower drive than OP and, explaining how that's fine. But I think there's something definitely going on here, and there seems like there's a lot of hiding going on. Personally, I would say you need to at least say that you need to take a break, or actually just break things off, unless everything comes out into the open. I think there's just so much masking and hiding and no clarity going on here, and it might be a much bigger topic and a lot more painful than OP realizes in the moment. He could be cheating. He could just be an addict to that online content, overly fulfilling himself that way and just having no drive. But there's no openness, there's no communication. That said, our next story is, my 33-year-old female, fiancé, 31-year-old male, cheated 2 years ago. This literally just happened, so please excuse any rambling. My 33-year-old female, fiancé, 31-year-old male, and I have been together for almost 6 years. We moved in together after a year of dating on our own, and then when I got pregnant in 2021, we moved in with my parents to save up for our place and get help with my son. 5 months after having my son, I got pregnant again, so we now have 2 sons together, 5 months and 15 months. Things have been great. Obviously, we have disagreements here and there, but he's very involved. We live in my family house and my siblings have moved out already, so there's plenty of room. About 3 months before I got pregnant with my first son, I miscarried very early on at 5 weeks. The day after, his grandmother passed away. She basically raised him and we'd been trying for a baby, so needless to say this was a hard time for him. So when he was invited to a bachelor party around the same time in Mexico, I actually encouraged him to go. I knew I couldn't travel and I knew he could definitely use a vacation. He came back and like I said, things were all good. Fast forward to today, I'm home with the kids and he calls me on his lunch break like he does every day. We talk and after a while I need to feed one of the kids, so we say our usual I love you, talk to you later. Basically I had my headphones on so I didn't hang up, and neither did he. And he immediately starts talking to his coworker saying something along the lines of, "Oh, there's a lot of girls outside today." He works at a construction site. And just because he can't do anything doesn't mean he can't look. And then goes into the story about how, but when I went to Mexico for a bachelor party a few years back, we had some girls staying next door to our Airbnb. They were down to party. And that, long story short, he went back to get his cigarettes with one of the girls. She came on to him and they hooked up. Right after he said it, he realized I was still on the phone and hung up. I called back and told him I heard it all. He obviously is trying to contact me, but I don't even know where to go from here. Like I said, things have been great. What the actual freak? I'm still in shock. Do I walk away? When I said I heard it all, he said, "I was just talking crap, babe." If I were in OP's situation, I would not know what to believe. I would not be able to trust this guy. Honestly, from the way things sound, considering OP says they're so perfect and this happened, I would feel like there's some kind of double life he's living where he has all of these behaviors and way of acting when OP's not around. Probably feels like you hardly even know the guy all of a sudden. Just talking crap? Our next story is my 23-year-old female partner, 30-year-old male, abusive? My fiancé has a tendency to break things, punch holes in the wall, and hit himself when he's angry and upset. Sometimes his actions have been a result of his frustrations with me, but mostly it's due to other life stressors. I've expressed to him before that it scares me when he gets violent, but things haven't really changed. I don't think he would ever lay a hand on me, but it is a concern that one day he might turn violent towards me. What do I do? Well, I'm obviously going to say that those aren't healthy ways of coping with any kind of emotion. If I were in OP's situation, I would be scared too that maybe at some point he does turn it upon you. I don't know more about OP's relationship. The age is still kind of in the range of a weird power dynamic vibe. Personally, I would say it's probably for the best for OP to back away from that if they could. Our next story is just ranting. So today I'm just so torn. My boyfriend and I are both off work today, and I told him that he should come over to me. But he told me he doesn't want to drive 20 minutes to me when I make the 20 minutes to him almost every single day when I'm not working, and I even come over after a long, tiring day of work to him. So I'm thinking to myself, I waste my gas to come see you almost every day, and my gas mileage in my car isn't good either, and you can't do this one day? Literally hurts my feelings. Also, I was telling him how it would be so nice to get flowers, cause he's only gotten me flowers once out of the nearly 3 years we've been together. He told me that they're a waste of money cause all they do is die in 3 days. So yeah, well, this guy sounds like a real charmer. Let's be real, driving 20 minutes to see your partner should not be any big deal. Personally, I would feel particularly blessed if it only took 20 minutes for me to drive to see my partner and spend a night with them. He doesn't really sound like he's putting in too great of an effort. Our next story is, I, female 23, have finally decided to end things with my, male 28, partner of 2 years, despite still loving him. This has been an extremely difficult thing to wrap my head around. I've been having many doubts about our compatibility and our future for a few months now, but have always cast it aside under the impression that I'm just overthinking it and, well, I still love him though. I do love him, and he loves me, but we're not compatible. We bonded over how much we want children, but considering our age gap and his somewhat traditional values, he wants to start the process much quicker than I do. He keeps trying to push me to get a professional job, to grow up and not dress the way I like to, and to stop dyeing my hair. I get it. He's older than me and he's at that point in his life. but I'm not there, and I don't consider the way I present myself to be too young. This is a huge part of our incompatibility. I've been going through a lot of huge things in my personal life this year, and it's really put into perspective how young I really am, and how much I appreciate being young and having this time to freak around and have fun before I have to start real grown-up things. There's been so much sorrow around me lately. I want to enjoy my life. I was in another long-term relationship with someone older before I got together with my current partner. I've been in long-term relationships since I was 18. I'm bored, quite frankly. I want to be young and dumb. After everything that's been going on in my life, I just want to breathe and be myself. I want to go out with friends, be able to have safe, casual fun with people. I don't want to constantly be overthinking my life and my relationship, trying to act mature enough. Personally, I think if you're feeling this way and you know you feel this way, make sure you experience what you want to experience. Don't regret it being hung up in a relationship that you're not truly happy with. To be honest, I'd been in a long-term relationship all throughout my early 20s. Eventually, it ended. I don't resent the other person in any way, but there is a long period in my life that could have gone completely differently and had a lot more different experiences if it hadn't been locked up in that relationship. Our next story is my 28-year-old female boyfriend, 30-year-old male, doesn't find me as attractive anymore. Pretty gutted and just looking for solace/words of wisdom, so bear with me. I've been with my boyfriend for a year and a half and have lived with him for the past year. We were crazy about each other from the very beginning and very much aligned with what we wanted out of life. We moved fast, but we both seemed utterly confident that we were endgame. A few months into the relationship, I gained about 10 to 15 pounds. Some of this I've been able to lose, but it's definitely fluctuated over the past year. For reference, I'm 5'8" and 150 pounds now. I think the weight gain had multiple factors. New birth control, diet change after moving in together, stressful new job. I'm very insecure about this weight, and I've asked my boyfriend multiple times if it bothers him. He tells me point blank that he's a little less attracted to me, but that he loves me all the same. Outside of this, we have an ideal relationship. We're emotionally on the same page, have a very active sex life, and are each other's best friends. A couple of times, though, I've noticed that he seems a little bit more reluctant to talk about our future than before. This came to a head yesterday when I brought up how I was feeling. He was all over the place. First, he said that he didn't know if he wanted kids. Then he said he was just enjoying this current phase of life too much to think about the future. And finally, he confessed that he loved me, but didn't think that his feelings were where they should be. He generally is pretty bad with conflict. So I asked if there was something I had done, to which the answer was no. Then I brought up the weight again. He broke down and confessed that yes, he attributes his loss of feelings to me gaining weight and that he feels awful about it. I asked if it was really just the weight, and he went on to say that my hair was falling out at a fast rate and that I was getting wrinkles. I mean, he's not wrong. I look at pictures from myself a year ago and want to cry. I guess the stress of my job has really taken a toll on me. I'm not really sure what else it could be. I've gone to a doctor to have my hormones checked and started a medication/topical solution for my hair a while ago. I take care of my skin and sometimes get Botox, although I haven't been able to lately because of money. I try to work out and eat healthy, but I find myself always coming back to this 150-pound mark after even a bit of indulgence. When we met, I was on an extremely restrictive diet and also didn't always have money for food. I don't think I can live that way anymore. It's not that I don't care or notice these things. I think I'm generally still an attractive person, but my self-worth has taken such a huge hit. I don't think there's much chance coming back from this, even if I wanted. I could definitely try to change these things, but at the end of the day, I'm never really going to always look the same. I just don't know how to handle this. We share the apartment until mid-October. He offered to go live at home, but to pay for me to stay here if we end up breaking up. I genuinely just feel like I don't have the capacity to handle this right now. I have an extremely stressful job and I'm not able to perform with these issues on my mind. I guess there isn't much advice to give here. Has anybody gone through similar on either end? Any advice to give power through? Thanks. Personally, I think the best relationships are the ones where Although you may notice changes, although you realize your partner is growing older and with that comes natural aging processes, you still find yourself charmed by them, you still find yourself in love with them. I feel like the issue here is he bases this relationship and the value of the relationship seemingly too much on just pure appearance. I mean, the fact that you gain a little bit of weight, you get some wrinkles, some hair falls out, and they immediately start questioning the future or the fact that they can't commit to it like they used to, it's a pretty big red flag. I'm not saying that it's wrong for him to feel that way. He can feel attracted however he wants, but it definitely seems, as far as the relationship goes, a pretty big red flag going forward. Our next story is, I, 36-year-old female, declined to send my boyfriend, 48-year-old male, inappropriate photos, so he accessed my personal email to see if he could find any in my sent messages to others. I've been with my partner for coming up on 3 years now, and it seems like he's always shown a certain disregard for my personal space and boundaries. Early in the relationship, he asked me to send him inappropriate photos, and I said no. I've never sent one, and won't start now. Saying it once was not enough. He kept asking, but eventually he did leave it alone. Fast forward from that, and he moved in with me a while back because his lease was up and he hadn't found a new one. Shortly after arriving in my home, he went through my closet and underwear drawer and grilled me about unused toys that had been a gag gift from a female friend after my last breakup. I explained at the time that I didn't feel being in a relationship with him meant I relinquished all right to privacy or my own space. More recently, he began to grill me about the last time I'd talked to my ex before him, and I said, not since we've been together. I couldn't figure out why he was so stuck on it. Eventually, he admitted that he had accessed my phone, which I didn't lock at the time, read through like 7 years of my email looking for any inappropriate photos I'd sent to others, none, I'd never done so, and found an email I'd sent to my ex, saying I wasn't comfortable being friends on social media after said ex sent me a friend request. This one email had been sent while current boyfriend was broken up with me and dating another woman, and I'd literally forgotten about it, given that even that exchange happened years ago. Anyway, I've been unable to get past the feeling that this is not only a tremendous violation of my privacy and anyone's who's emailed me, but also just the latest in a pattern of him feeling entitled to my personal space. I'm seriously considering ending the relationship over it. Assuming I can get him to go, do you think there's any chance of counseling improving this side of him? Or is failure to respect my privacy just a trait he's always going to have? I definitely think this guy is very controlling and invasive. Maybe if they genuinely commit to the counseling side and they're willing to share everything and talk openly about it, maybe it can be worked past. But with him being 48 years old and doing things that sound like an 18-year-old may do if they're acting out, I really don't know how great your chances are. Our next story is, I, 34-year-old female, feel sick about telling him, 37-year-old male, that I don't love him. We've been together for 8 years. In 2021, we had our first real conversation where we spoke about our feelings. Our son, 4-year-old male, was born in 2018, and I said I didn't think I was in love with him anymore. We then spoke a lot, and I said that maybe I was confused and I did love him, but we had things to work on. At the end of September 2021, we bought a house and tried working on some issues. Over the years, there have been a collection of problems which we've spoken about, but nothing's really changed. Here's just some of the things. 1. He reacts quickly and generally badly to stressful situations. He believes he has ADHD and has a partial diagnosis, so I let a lot slide because of this. 2. He has 2 children, 17-year-old male and 15-year-old female, who he left living with their mom when he left her. They were together for 10 years, to be with me. When we met, they were at the end of their relationship. I said I wouldn't be with him if they hadn't finished, and he assured me that they had and he'd moved out. 3. He has little patience for any of his children. If our son is excitable, he just shouts, "No," or his name really loudly if he's doing something he doesn't like, rather than explain and say, "This hurt me because you were too excitable, so can we go a little slower?" Or just taking the time to understand what's going on. Different parenting, I get it, but he's also quite rude to his own kids. They're frustrating, and their mom has basically given up with them, but he was 50% responsible for their former years. 4. He used to make deals in returns for adult favors. Like he would tidy up if I would lay unclothed and cuddle him. It was the only way he'd actually do things. Or I would say, okay, if I can invite my friend around for drinks, I'll hook up with you. Really unhealthy, so I said this recently had to stop as it wasn't normal. 5. I've always helped him with getting jobs. He works remotely as do I, but if anything doesn't go his way, he just assumes he's crap and will have no money and he won't have a job. If I say we'll figure it out as we always do, he just gets annoyed at me for saying it. 7. He doesn't like me doing things without him. For example, if I want to go and meet a mum friend, he'll say, why isn't he invited? I wouldn't be allowed to go out for the day with my son and a friend, for example. He would say, I don't want to be left on my own all day. He doesn't really have friends in the area, but that's because he doesn't make any effort to make friends. My best friend and her husband often come over for drinks or to hang out as their daughter and our son are best friends. He often accuses me of fancying her husband because he might text me every now and then asking a work question. We work remotely together. I find it quite insulting, really. I've never given any impression of this. I'm not perfect by any means. I guess I'm quite controlling as I like the house to be a certain way or things to be done how I like them, and he's the complete opposite of that. I don't know how to leave. I keep thinking it'll be a bad move and I should just continue because it's better for everyone else and my son. Logistically, who leaves if I end it? We have a house. I want my son to live with me, but I would never stop his dad from seeing him. He has family about 30 minutes away and I have family 2.5 hours away. I don't even know how to have the conversation as he'll say I let him on or we can try as he'll change. I guess I'm just venting. I'm feeling really anxious about it all. So there was another bullet point that I had to skip because it literally was essentially he SA'd OP. Just all around, this guy seems like he has an unhealthy relationship with almost anybody around him. Does he go through life actually caring and doing things for anybody else, or is it all just doing what he can to just get what he wants? Personally, and again, I'm just some random amateur, I would say find a way out. I just don't see forever in this relationship with this kind of guy. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.